We used to come down here. We used to drive down here just to listen to the frogs in the spring because the marsh is just really alive. When we saw the for sale sign go on the farm, we thought, oh gosh. We had built our last house and it was almost finished, and we kind of made the decision that we couldn't let this place go because we were afraid what would happen to it. It's just a wonderful part of the ecosystem, really.
One of the things we honed in on when we first moved in is there is a big Velco corridor that comes right through Monkton, and it jogs right around the farm totally. It was kind of cool that whenever they put that line in, somebody apparently must have said, no, not through this farm. So I've heard the pipeline was coming through town. I thought, well, you know, that's the modern world coming to Monkton. We're going to have gas transmission. The first guy that came to talk to us, he said, I want to see if it's feasible to go across your property. I said, no way. Because, well, you know, we could use eminent domain. It's like, to see if it's feasible to come across my farm. You know, it's like within the first 5 minutes of the conversation.
Then we saw the map, and we saw where it was coming. It's like, oh my God. You know, what are they thinking? Yeah, my brother's a pipeliner. Yep, he's a welder's assistant. When we heard about this coming through, I called my brother and I said, you know, we're getting a pipeline through. And he said, well, you know, they build them really safe. Don't worry, you know, it'll be okay. And he said, how deep they putting it? And I said, 3 feet. He said, that's crazy. He said, that's insane. I said, no, really? And he said, yeah, they bury them 10 feet around here.
And a 12-inch transmission line with it's regulated for 1,400 pounds of pressure, you know, there's like 320 feet that they keep talking about. That's your actually, you know, they say that's a safe setbacks distance. That's actually your instant incineration zone. If that pipeline blows, everything 300 feet in both directions of that pipeline is cooked instantly. It's like really weird that they would say, well, this can't go down through the Velco corridor because it's going to be closer than 320 feet from somebody's house over there. So let's put it over at the Palmers, 160 feet away from their house.
And that's to just trash our soil, take out trees, go through our pond and our little orchard and our septic system. You know, where they put it through our farm, hits everything. I mean, they couldn't have hit more infrastructure on our farm if they tried. And the reason they had to come so close to the house is because of the wetland protection area that we did, the WRP. We put it within 200 feet of our house, so they want to squeeze it in between there because they don't want to get a federal permit.
It's like this whole thing. It's like when we first tried to figure out why they're off the Velco corridor, you know, it's like, it's right there. There's a Velco corridor, you know, they're supposed to bundle up utilities. And they said, well, we can't be over there because Velco doesn't want us. And, you know, it was a while before we figured out that they actually owned a big chunk of Velco. It's like, you don't want it on your own easement, so you're going to put it through our farm because it's going to inconvenience your sister company. You know, it's like, what's the deal here? We had a meeting with Vermont Gas here early on, and our neighbors came over. And my neighbor says, so how are you going to know if there's a leak on this gas line? They said, well, you know, we monitor it. You know, we walk it every year and we fly over it. They said, well, we look for the vegetation turning yellow and then we hone in on it. It's like, well, by the time your crops have turned yellow, you've got some serious damage to your soil. And like, I was talking to the fire chief in Charlotte, and I said, can you imagine a 12-inch pipe out there with 1,400 pounds of pressure? It's like, if that thing's got a leak and there's any type of little spark out there, it's gone. He goes, what are you talking about, spark? He goes, with 1,400 pounds of pressure in the pipeline, all of our training tells us that it will friction ignite with the gas coming out of it so fast, it will eventually hit the right temperature and it will blow up on its own. It's like, beautiful. So you don't even have to worry about whether there's a spark out there, it'll touch itself off. You know, I mean, we do a lot of research on what's going on. You know, they said the pipeline was coming through and it's clean natural gas, and don't you want to help out your neighbors? You know, I mean, we listened to all that and digested it and then started, you know, researching it. Say, you know, where does this gas come from? So, you know, we punched up, you know, Western Alberta Gas and Oil Association on the computer, and it comes right up, you know. It's like, and who's supplying this? Encana. It's like, you punch up their website, you know. One of the first things you see is Encana's CEO at the time was saying, you know, my goal for 2011, I guess it was, is to get the wholesale price of gas up 40%. I'm going, if its goal is to get the price of wholesale gas up 40%, what's that going to do to the 40% retail advantage they think they have in Vermont? And then you start hearing reports about what it's doing for groundwater contamination, and people are losing their stock, animals are dying, they're having health issues, their water's going bad, and the board ruled that it's like, unless the fracking that is happening here, unless the damage is to Vermonters, we can't look at the damage out of the state. It's like, well, this is a global economy, it's a global neighborhood now. What this is all about is not getting gas to Rutland, Virgins, Middlebury. It's about getting gas through the state. Because once they get down through to the federal pipeline system, they can backfeed gas from there, as well as bring it down from Western Alberta, whichever works out best. In the technical hearing, you're looking at the spreadsheet, and it works out for 19 years, Virgins and the Middlebury load is running in the red. It's like, this can't be right. And that came up in the technical hearing. It's like, this runs in the red. It's like, can you imagine going to the bank and saying, I want to borrow $90 million so I can service 3,000 customers, and I'm going to lose money for 19 years. Would you get a bank loan for that? No, they're getting the money from the ratepayers that they've already overcharged in Franklin and Chittenden County. If they want to talk about the good of getting gas to international paper, that seems to slide in. But if you say anything about you're taking gas to international paper in the 248 process, going for the Public Service Board, it's like, that's irrelevant. That's in phase 2. Where's the public good in that, And he said, well, in that 20-year period, they're going to save $200 million on fuel savings, these 3,000 people, customers. It's like, over 20 years, they're going to save this $200 million. And when they save that money, they're going to go out in the local area, and they're going to spend that money that they saved, and that's going to boost the local economy, and that's going to be your public good. So it was that. So if the price of gas goes up, or the price of oil comes down, and there's not the $200 million savings for them to go out and spend, then there's no public good. And it was like,
oh, it's gonna.
That's not going to happen, though. It'll always be cheaper. It's like, really?
I think it's starting to erode. I think people are starting to say, wait a minute, it doesn't make sense. If I'm not going to really save that much money, and that's the only thing they have now. They've even stopped saying it's cleaner because it hasn't been proved to be cleaner. The whole process of getting it out of the ground and getting it to you is enough leakage of methane that it counteracts all the goodness that you have from burning cleaner. So, they can't say it's cleaner anymore, although their logo still says clean.
There's a lot of people that are connected to the land, and a lot of people aren't. It doesn't make you a good person or a bad person. It's just the way you're wired, So when you're connected to the land and you see what people are doing to the land on the other end of this, it just makes you go, whoa, wait a minute. I don't want to be involved in that. So.
There's been times I've thought, well, what if we just said yes? What could be the worst thing, about it? And then you start thinking about it, and it's like, oh my God, I cannot accept that. I can't accept that. I can't not fight this thing. It's just wrong on every level.